This content contains graphic descriptions of violence, sensitive topics, and adult themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Code 1098 True Crime Podcast. I am your host, Dina V. Thanks for tuning in. This case takes us up to central Wisconsin. August 20th, 1999, Nakusa, Wisconsin. A mother drops her 4-year-old daughter at the babysitter's house, and she promises to be back like always and leaves with her 2-year-old son and a friend. But she never returns. 4 days later, the babysitter realizes she's not coming back and contacts authorities. Just like that, a mother and her toddler son have vanished along with her friend. Dana Menger was 27 when she disappeared, and her son Dakota was only 2. Dana had 3 children, an older daughter that lived with her paternal grandmother, her son Dakota, and her 4-year-old daughter that was left with the babysitter. The babysitter told police it wasn't unusual for Dana to leave her daughter there for a couple days, but when the 4th day came, she knew something was off, as Dana had never left her child that long. Dana had what was considered a relatively minor criminal history at the time, though by today's standards, some of those offenses would be viewed more seriously. In 1996, she was charged with possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, but the case ultimately resulted in probation. Even so, nothing in her background suggested behavior severe enough to indicate she would abandon 2 of her children and disappear with her 3rd. Junelle Marquardt was only 21 when she disappeared with Dana and Dakota Menger. Much like Dana, Junelle had a criminal history from back then that was considered minor. By today's standards, some of those crimes would be considered more serious, like witness intimidation. Both women were on probation and were described as estranged from their immediate families. Sometime after the babysitter called authorities about the child being abandoned, Dana's probation officer called Nakusa police, but even then the 3 were not reported missing. It was later learned that Dana had called her older daughter around the time she was last seen and told her that she did something really, really bad and she was leaving and not coming back. Dana had been living in an apartment with her youngest 2 children in Nakusa, not far from the police department. Junelle had lived in Wisconsin Rapids. It only takes approximately 10 to 15 minutes to get from Dana's apartment in Nakusa to the babysitter's house in Saratoga Township. It took 5 years until Dana and Dakota were reported missing. In 2004, Dana's brother finally reported her and Dakota missing, but what prompted it is unknown to the public. Sadly, he passed away in 2013. Junelle was never officially reported missing by anyone, but must not have been ever found and was tied to the investigation. In the months before they disappeared, Junelle was dating and living with a man named Henry Stencil in Wisconsin Rapids. Her probation officer told her that she had to stop living with Henry. Weeks before going missing with Dana and Dakota, Junelle reported to her probation officer that despite ending things with Henry and moving out of his home, he wouldn't leave her alone. Junelle filed for a restraining order against Henry based on the advice of her probation officer on July 7th, 1999. Junelle's restraining order statement claimed the following: I am afraid of Henry because he is constantly trying to find me. He calls my house my friend's house. He follows me when I am driving in a car. He follows me to my friends and my house and sits there to see if I come out. He was seen today by my dad going through his shed and my friend's car. If I am somewhere he calls and they say I'm not there, he goes there. I was living with him until he went crazy and put a gun to his head because my probation officer said I had to move out. I haven't lived there for over a month now. He's been calling my PO and saying stuff about me and lying about me. I have talked to her about this, and she told me to come and get this restraining order. I am scared to leave and go anywhere because I'm afraid of running into him. He says I owe him money, and I don't. He signed over his car to me and gave me the title. His son has my other car because he fixed, and no, he won't give it to me either. I have all the paperwork. I don't know what to do about these things either. Janelle reported all of this to not only her probation officer, but to the court in a filed request for protection. The actions described by Janelle show escalation. She had a witness, her father, and people who received those phone calls when Henry was checking her location. He had access to weapons. Neither Dana nor Janelle were hardened criminals. Their records reflected instability, but in the eyes of law enforcement, those records made it easier to dismiss their disappearance as voluntary. But what about Dakota? How does one toddler get left behind and another vanish without anyone noticing for 5 years? This isn't just a mystery about 3 people vanishing. It's about missed opportunities, restraining orders ignored, family never contacted, and a system that seemed to look away. Janelle warned the court she was afraid for her life. Weeks later, she was gone. Dana left her daughter at the babysitter's promising she'd be back, a daughter who was put into the system and adopted when she never returned. And Dakota, just 2 years old, was swept away into silence. Would we even know Janelle was missing if it wasn't for Dana's brother 5 years after they were last seen? 2 young women and a child remain missing, and statement made in a Wisconsin courtroom just weeks before they disappeared could hold a clue to their fate. If you know anything, even the smallest detail, you could help solve this case. Contact Nakusa Police at 715-886-7897, the Wisconsin DOJ Missing Person Clearinghouse at 1-800-843-4673, or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-843-5678.